What's my view on Michael Jai White being a real fighter? Someone asked. Well, what is a real fighter? Well, literally speaking, if you really are fighting, it would have to be for the purpose of protecting yourself, someone else, and trying to stop someone from harming you, or you trying to inflict harm on someone else, or physical harm on someone else, that is, and maybe even killing that person to avoid being killed yourself. In the literary sense, that's what fighting would be, although boxing matches are deemed as a fight. Martial arts competitions are deemed as fighting, but there are rules, there's regulations, there's stipulations, there's limitations. But that's a sporting event or happening. So when I'm asked the question, is Michael Jai White a real fighter? I know that he's a sports fighter, and I know he's done that before, and there's video to substantiate that. I can't really speak to whether or not he's a good street fighter. I just really don't know. I've never experienced that. I've never seen him in a street fight per se. Now, just because we see him in film, just because we see him in a sporting event, does not necessarily translate to how he would do in a street fight, even though he's very skillful for a big guy. He's very knowledgeable in karate from what he's studied, from what I can see. But I can't really say how good of a street fighter he would be, but who cares? If he can protect himself, an innocent person, or his loved ones, that's a wonderful thing to be able to do, period. Now, to try to measure, I don't know what kind of measuring stick I would use to say that he's a mediocre street fighter, a poor street fighter, or a great street fighter. I don't know that. But I would say that he could hold his own if he had to. I do believe that, because I don't think all of the years that he's invested in his martial arts training would have gone to naught. And I've seen enough of him to know that he has the skill set to be a very, very good fighter. I wouldn't take that away from him. But I can't say that he's not a good street fighter. I don't know that. I would say, as I said a moment ago, I believe that push come to shove, he could hold his own. Probably greater than most. So that's that. Now, someone might ask the question about Bruce Lee being a street fighter or a good street fighter, since you said that about Michael Jai White. So does that mean the same thing as far as Bruce Lee is concerned? No, not necessarily, because Bruce Lee only studied the art of pugilism, fighting. He didn't study sport martial arts, period. That was not his forte. He didn't do that. So I would say that Bruce Lee was a great street fighter. And I didn't have to be a fly on the wall. I didn't have to observe him or be there and watch him. I do believe some of the accounts of him having fights before, and you put things together over a period of time throughout the years. And I've been in the martial arts 50 plus years now, right? So with that much time in, I wasn't just playing with my fingers, legs propped up, sitting in the easy chair. I have been well vested in the martial arts. And with that kind of time in, and me studying and training in fighting, and not just sport, I think I can speak from a authority about Bruce Lee being a pretty good street fighter, if it came down to it, and I don't have to have been there. Just from my experience in life, period. So again, there's a difference. If a person is a sport martial arts competitor, I do believe they have skill and can defend themselves under normal circumstances in a street fight. But if a person is only studying and training, fighting, period, no sports at all, they're focused. They are laser tuned like Lee was, like Bruce Lee was. I believe he was a great street fighter. I do. Because I followed his life, not just him, but other martial arts masters as well. But he seems to be the topic of discussion as to his validity or lack thereof as a street fighter, because people want to always try to equate him to some heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight champion in martial arts, and how many tournaments did he win in championships, and that's still sport. But don't forget, Bruce Lee didn't study sport. He studied the real thing. That's why he had a library that he had amassed of over 2,000 books on virtually every fighting system, to include boxing, that existed during his lifetime. Films he studied of boxers, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, aikido, sabat, French foot fighting, fencing, and the list just went on. Eskrima, Kobudo, he studied these things and he's trained in these things. And plus, he tried to make his body that of a warrior, if it came down to it. So his whole life was predicated on learning the art of fighting. That was it. So, that was my take. Michael Jai White, I would believe, again, to conclude, would do well in a street fight. But just on what level, I don't know. But he would do well. What do you think?